Here we are to save the day. That's John King over there. I'm Mighty Mouse. No, I'm. That's the theme. Can't sure that's the theme song from Mighty Mouse, but he's no longer with us.
He plays on the back channel of television, I'm sure.
Whatever. Somewhere there's a Mickey Mouse or a Mighty Mouse program playing. But I don't know where that came from. Anyway, good morning, John.
Good morning.
So what is going on in our fabulous, of course, we have open phones to start this first half hour, and then John Kappas joining us from Mountain Water at 9.
Well, one of the things there's a lot of big news.
Right.
Obviously, there's the issue of Keystone, which we didn't really talk that much about yesterday. We have the internet. Big changes may be coming today. I believe there's a vote today on major changes to the internet, which is a concern for everybody who uses the internet.
Net neutrality.
There's also, we found out a lot more about Jihad John, the individual that decapitated, insert expletive here, that decapitated some, pretty famously for ISIS on video. Some of his background, but before we get to any of that stuff, I have an important news bulletin that directly impacts Peter's lifestyle.
I can't wait. So. The Cheetos are the key to a long and healthy life.
You won't believe how close you are to the actual story. I haven't actually read this to Peter. This is background here.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay,
I'm ready. Go ahead.
Warren Buffett was interviewed by Patricia Sellers for Fortune.
Yes.
And she asked him, what's your secret to longevity? So here it goes. This is her article in Fortune.
This is Warren Buffett.
How does the world's top investor at 84 years old wake up every day and face the world with boundless energy? Quote, I'm 1/4 Coca-Cola, end quote, said Warren Buffett. When he told me this at a phone call yesterday, we were talking about the death of his friend, former Coca-Cola president Don Coe. I assumed that he was talking about his stock portfolio. No, Buffett explained. If I eat 2,700 calories a day, 1/4 of that is Coca-Cola.
Wow.
I drink at least 5 12-ounce servings, and I do it every day. Woo! Perhaps only a man who owns $16 billion in Coca-Cola stock, 9% of Coke, through his company Berkshire Hathaway, would maintain such an odd daily diet. One 12-ounce can of Coke contains 140 calories. Typically, Buffett says, I have 3 Cokes during the day and 2 at night.
Wow.
When he's at his desk at Berkshire Hathaway headquarters in Omaha, he drinks regular Coke. At home, he treats himself to cherry Coke. Quote, I will have 1 at breakfast, he explained, noting that he loves to drink Coke with potato sticks.
Yes!
What brand of potato sticks? I have a can right here, he says.
Okay.
Utz, U-T-Z. Is a Hanover, Pennsylvania-based snack maker. Buffett says that he's talked to Utz management about potentially buying their company.
I liked it so much, I bought the company.
Investors in Berkshire Hathaway may feel relieved that the CEO isn't addicted to Utz potato sticks at every breakfast. Quote, this morning I had a bowl of chocolate ice cream, Buffett says.
Wow.
Asked to explain this high-sugar, high-salt diet that has somehow enabled him to remain seemingly healthy, Buffett replies, I checked the actuarial tables, and the lowest death rate is among 6-year-olds. So I decided to eat like a 6-year-old. The octogenarian adds, it's the safest course I could take.
I love it.
So there you go.
I love that guy.
Peter, you're in.
That is awesome. I mean, that is completely awesome.
I just got a text back from my wife.
Oh, there you go.
We're going to go see Alton Brown, the chef.
Yes.
TV chef. He's coming to Butte over the weekend.
Oh, how lovely.
So we're going to go check it
out. The food scientist.
And I told my wife, hey, I want to go check out the pit while we're in Butte. And she said, oh, so romantic. Deal. Oh,
the nice thing is you won't need any lights. It glows in the dark, so it's a wonderful attraction.
Well, that's good to know. Well, okay, let's get to some real news.
Okay.
We were talking last week about jobs, education, economy, and jihadism, right?
Right.
One of the things that has come out is the identity of, and by the way, I didn't know this. Do you know how he got the name Jihadi John?
I have no idea.
So the prisoners named all the British ISIS members after the Beatles.
Wow.
There's like John, and there's a George as well. And
a Paul and a Ringo.
I don't know if there's a Paul and a Ringo.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, those would be the other 2 Beatles, so that would make sense.
Sorry. I don't know if they named all 4, but yeah, they named them after the Beatles. So
I mean,
Anyway.
John and George are also former kings of England. I mean, come on now.
There we go. So anyway, apparently grew up in abject poverty.
Okay.
Not really.
All right.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Investigators believe that Jihadi John, the mass fighter who fronted Islamic State's beheading videos, is a British man named Mohammed Emwazi, 2 U.S. government sources said on Thursday. He was born in Kuwait and comes from a prosperous family in London.
Imagine that.
Wow.
Guess he doesn't need one of our jobs.
Where he grew up and graduated with a computer programming degree.
Wow.
According to the Washington Post. In the videos released by ISIS, the black-clad militant brandishing a knife and speaking with an English accent appears to have decapitated hostages, including Americans, Britons, and Syrians. The Washington Post said Emwazi, who used the videos to threaten the West and taunt leaders such as President Barack Obama and British Prime Minister David Cameron, was believed to have traveled to Syria in 2012 and to have later joined IS. In each beheading video, he is dressed entirely in black. I don't need to know about that. You guys have seen the video. Anyway, I guess the thing that I wanted to bring about here is just the fact that this guy has, it's not the destitute, humble upbringings that a lot of people would lead you to believe these jihadi leaders come from.
Right.
I mean, computer degree. I mean, I already distrust computers, but they don't necessarily lead you to jihadism.
Well, Osama bin Laden came from a very wealthy family.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions, and the more I hear about this, and then I juxtapose that with our State Department with their 12-year-old analysts that they have there. And well, it's what they look like. Have you seen those people?
Your perspective on time is creepy because
they look like they're about 12 years old, John.
You make Warren Buffett
and
look
they talk
like
they're
child.
12 too. We need to give them jobs.
You know, I'm sorry. It's just like who's running the show over there? Is it the Kitty Clown Circus? What's the deal? So.
Well, actually, the people running this show, one of them is Susan Rice. I have a clip from her.
Oh, you do? Okay.
All right. And maybe we'll play that after the break.
Oh, yes. We
It's
are
a little bit more than a longer.
Okay.
It's about a 2-minute cut here. But anyway, it's part of her speech on what our national defense policy would be. And it's creepily not associated with what you think it might be about.
Okay. Well, forgive me. I have a correction to make. It's not the Kitty Clown Circus. It's the Ding Dong School. So we'll
like the good kind of ding dongs, like
no.
the pastries.
Those of you who are old like me will remember what the Ding Dong School was on TV.
No one is as old as you. What is the Ding Dong?
Never mind. It's an old. Just get out. We'll be right back. Golly. We're back.
Put that whip down, Peter.
All right. 721-1290 is our number. This is John King. I'm Peter Christian. Now, what did you find out about the Ding Dong School?
Okay, so it's like a precursor to Sesame Street.
There you go.
It was written on tablets with chisels.
Back in the 50s and 60s when television was in its infancy, the Ding Dong School was like, "Hi, kids, come on over. We're going to learn the alphabet now." You know, stuff like that. So, and that's what I feel like I'm watching when I watch these State Department people. They get up there and they just look like they're just. Are they even out of high school yet?
They're youthful.
And I realize that they have degrees and lots of letters behind their name, and they're probably really smart. But it's just like, phew.
All right.
Anyway.
So the next person, you're not one of the younger looking ones.
Okay.
This is someone to be taken seriously.
Oh,
this
yes, sir.
Your United States National Security Advisor, Susan Rice.
Oh, Susan Rice, the one that, with the whole video thing with Benghazi. Yeah, I really trust her.
Well, anyway, here she is kind of outlining part of our strategy for national security.
Okay, here we go.
At a time when citizens in every region are demanding greater freedom and more accountability from their governments, our strategy is to defend democracy and human rights, combat corruption, promote open government, and stand with civil society. We do so by living our values at home. President Obama has deepened our commitment to promoting that basic American value, equality. We believe everyone should be able to speak their minds and practice their faith freely. We believe that all girls deserve the very same opportunities as boys. We believe that all human beings are created equal and are worthy of the same love and respect, including our lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender brothers and sisters. These beliefs are fundamental to who we are. Advancing equality is both morally right and smart strategy. If we reduce disparities, which can lead to instability and violence, we increase our shared security. Reams of empirical evidence demonstrate how countries do better across every metric when they tap the talents of all of their people. So we champion the rights of vulnerable communities, those targeted by abuse or excluded from society, and counter escalating cycles of hatred that can spark violence.
Okay, there you go. That's Susan Rice. And 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Now, we have...
So our strategy
right.
is to do what we want at home.
Yes.
And reduce disparities here.
Right, yeah. That's what it's all about. Now, you had a story that actually Catherine sent in, didn't you, that has this big, long word? It kind of goes along with what she said there. Well,
okay, I'll look it up while we go to our first call. How's that?
Let's get Mike on the line first. Mike, I don't want to make you wait. Good morning, sir.
Well, I was listening when she said Obama taught us whatever she said there to begin with. But what Obama did teach us, and a few other politicians, how to lie with a straight face, and even if you get caught, nobody's going to hold you accountable. That is what I have learned from watching these people for the last 6 years or whatever they've been around. And Susan Rice, I wouldn't trust her no further than I could throw her, believe me. So,
okay, Mike.
That's my comment.
All right, thanks for the call. Appreciate that. Catherine, good morning.
Morning.
Hi.
Well, so this is why we've reduced our military to the point where the military advisors are saying that we would be barely able to defend our home country, and certainly not, a two-front war like what we have always had our military be able to do. And the second thing is this why we appointed, or John Kerry appointed an advisor, or it's a supreme whatever kind of position for LGBTQ something rights worldwide?
I guess so. I guess so.
Because I think I sent you a link to that one.
Yes, and you also sent us something about Wesleyan University.
Oh yes, it's a Jesuit university.
Well, not Jesuit. It's
Wesleyan. I'm sorry, not
Methodist.
Jesuit. Methodist.
It's Methodist.
It's Methodist.
Yeah.
Well, here's the title because it is an interesting.
Okay, here we go. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just turn up your radio really loud because this is something you just kind of have to really listen to.
It's a long series of letters.
Yes.
The title.
It's an acronym that never ends.
The title of the article which is by Catherine Tempf, is Wesleyan now offering LGBTQQFAGP. PBDSM housing, not a typo. I'm not going to repeat that. We'll just call it LG, etc.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Wesleyan University in Connecticut is now offering LG, etc. housing because apparently LGBT or even LGBTQQ wouldn't have been inclusive enough. For the culturally ignorant among us, you can count me in that category.
Yeah.
Because I had never seen this conglomeration here. It stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, questioning, flexual, which is a new one for me.
I never heard that one.
Asexual, gender blank, polyamorous, bondage/discipline, dominant/submission, sadism/masochism. So there you go. The name of this super inclusive social justice hero of a dorm is Open House, and it is meant to be a safe place for self-identified LGBT, etc. students, according to the university's official website. Of course, some students may feel their sexual orientation or gender identity is so unique that it could not fit into one of those 15 categories represented by those letters. So in order to make sure no one ever feels discriminated against ever, the webpage also clarifies that Open House is for people of sexual or trans or gender dissident communities in general. So there you go. There's a place for everybody at Wesleyan University. I'm sure John Wesley, I wonder if he would have stayed in the dorm. I don't know.
Well,
I could tell you what John Wesley's doing right now.
I think the tuition is approximately $60,000 a year for that place.
I don't know. I have no idea.
So, you know.
I just, and again, I'm admittedly, I'm the old guy in the room, okay? I understand. I wear that mantle proudly, but when I see stuff like this, all I can do is just shake my head.
Well,
how much is the yearly tuition?
approximately $60,000 a year.
$50,000 a year.
No, 60.
Oh, excuse me, $60,000 a year. All right.
Thanks for your call, Catherine.
All right, bye.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
One more thing before we're done here.
Yeah, we got to take a break. So.
Okay. I got an email from the Danes campaign today.
Oh,
He's
okay.
against the Loretta Lynch nomination. She would replace the current Attorney General, which is Eric Holder, who's
Right.
kind of already said he's leaving. I have a really interesting testimony I want to play for you after the break.
Okay, we'll come right back, and we haven't heard Loretta Lynn for a long time,
Lynch.
since the coal miner's daughter thing, and now she's wants to be the Secretary of Defense. Is that right?
Close.
Loretta Lynn.
Close.
We'll be right back with more of that, just more country music right after this. All right, little Loretta Lynn music there for you. Not Loretta Lynch. Okay, but I understand we have a cut to share with Cheryl Atkinson, right?
Yeah, she testified against Loretta Lynch and the importance of having someone that's ethical in the office.
Here we go.
The job of getting at the truth has never been more difficult. Facets of federal government have isolated themselves from the public they serve. They covet and withhold public information that we as citizens own. They bully and threaten access of journalists who do their jobs, news organizations that publish stories they don't like, and whistleblowers who dare to tell the truth. When I reported on factual contradictions in the administration's accounts regarding Fast and Furious, pushback included a frenzied campaign with White House officials trying to chill the reporting by calling and emailing my superiors and colleagues, using surrogate bloggers to advance false claims. One White House official got so mad he angrily cussed me out. The Justice Department used its authority over building security to handpick reporters allowed to attend a Fast and Furious briefing, refusing to clear me into the public Justice Department building. Advocates had to file a lawsuit to obtain public information about Fast and Furious improperly withheld under executive privilege. Documents recently released show emails in which taxpayer-paid White House and Justice Department press officials complained that I was out of control and vowed to call my bosses to try to stop my reporting. Let me emphasize that my reporting was factually indisputable. Government officials weren't angry because I was doing my job poorly. They were panicked because I was doing my job well. Many journalists have provided their own accounts. The White House made good on its threat to punish C-SPAN after C-SPAN dared to defy a White House demand to delay airing a potentially embarrassing interview with the president. 50 news organizations, including CBS and the Washington Post, wrote the White House objecting to unprecedented restrictions on the press that raise constitutional concerns. A New York Times photographer likened the White House practices in some cases to the Soviet news agency TASS. Former Washington Post executive editor Len Downey called the Obama war on leaks by far the most aggressive he's seen since Nixon. David Sanger of the New York Times called this the most closed, control-freak administration he's ever covered. New York Times public editor Margaret Sullivan said, "It's the administration of unprecedented secrecy and unprecedented attacks on a free press." Months before we knew that the Justice Department had secretly seized AP phone records and surveilled Fox News' James Rosen, before Director of National Intelligence Director James Clapper incorrectly testified under oath that Americans weren't subject to mass data collection, I was tipped off that the government was likely secretly monitoring me due to my reporting. 3 physics exams confirmed the intrusive long-term remote surveillance. That included keystroke monitoring, password capture, use of Skype to listen into audio and exfiltrate files, and more. Getting to the bottom of it hasn't been easy. It's unclear what, if anything, the FBI has done to investigate. The Justice Department has refused to answer simple, direct, written congressional questions about its knowledge of the case. It has stonewalled my Freedom of Information requests, first saying that it had no responsive documents, then admitting to 2,500 of them, but never providing any of them. In 2013, Reporters Without Borders downgraded America's standing in the global free press rankings, rating the Obama administration as worse than Bush's. It matters not that when caught, the government promises to dial back or that James Rosen gets an apology. The message has already been received. If you cross this administration with perfectly accurate reporting they don't like, you will be attacked and punished. You and your sources may be subjected to the kind of surveillance devised for enemies of the state. For much of history, the United States has held itself out as a model of freedom, democracy, and open, accountable government. Freedoms of expression and association are, of course, protected by the Constitution. Today, those freedoms are under assault due to government policies of secrecy, leak prevention, and officials' contact with the media, combined with large-scale surveillance programs. The nominee, if confirmed, should chart a new path and reject the damaging policies and practices that have been used by others in the past. If we aren't brave enough to confront these concerns, it could do serious long-term damage to a supposedly free press. Thank you.
All right, there you go. And with that, we're up against a break. We'll come right back with John Kappas after the top of the hour. All right, getting back into the meat of our program, if you will. John King's right over there. I'm Peter Christian. Joining us in studios, President El Jefe, as we like to call him, of Mountain Water. Where'd that come from? John Kappas is joining us. Welcome back, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me back.
You were such a hit the first time you were here, we had to bring you back.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, which seems like it was a long time ago, but it was more than 2 months ago that John was on with us before. And since then, a lot of stuff has transpired. A lot of major stuff this week, it looks like. So I was hoping maybe you could catch us up about this whole mediation disclosure that the employees were complaining about at the Council of the Whole earlier on the week. Can you tell us kind of from your side of things what was going on there?
Yeah, so it was, the months are flying by, but it was late January that the employee group, there still hadn't been an agreement with the city or a commitment from the city with how they would handle the employee group if they were to be successful in getting the condemnation. And so the city and asked that the employee group mediate with them. And the mediation process was to try to resolve any issues and keep it from having to go to court in March. Well, that mediation process is supposed to be confidential. And so we went into that as an employee group with that confidentiality in mind. The city offered or provided a offer in a contract. The employees were looking at it and trying to decide, where it wasn't quite living up to the promises being made. And that was last Wednesday then that at the committee of a whole, that information was provided publicly before the mediation had ended. And
when you say it's supposed to be confidential, is that kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to pee in your pool, but then everybody does? Or is it like legally, like by law, you're not supposed to reveal this stuff?
By Montana statute, those discussions are supposed to remain confidential. Any discussions that take place during that mediation process.
So at what point can they become public? I mean, is there a point where you have to wait until all the papers are signed or what? Or is there...
Yeah, so my understanding would be if we weren't to come to terms, then all of that discussion would remain confidential, and then we would deal with it during the trial. If we were able to come to terms, and obviously at that point, whatever the terms were could have been made public.
I see. So what was disclosed that you feel was harmful?
Well, I think it's more the aspect of, first, the trust that the employees had that the city would negotiate in good faith and keep things confidential. The fact that this contract, a lot of the terms of the agreement were provided to the public, and from what we can tell, the whole contract was provided to the media as well. So it really was that confidentiality, that good faith aspect, breaking the trust of the employees, and so that ended the mediation at that point.
So is there in legalese they call them remedies? Okay, are there any remedies that this was released? Is there some sort of compensation they can provide you, or aside from sorry we blew it, we didn't realize what we were doing, or what? Where do you go from here?
As far as all the remedies, I guess I'd have to leave that to the attorneys looking into it. But the basic end result is that mediation ended, and now it will have to be taken through the court process.
I know what the attorney will say. Lawsuit.
All right, let's get Susan on the line. Susan, thank you for holding. You're on with John Kappas. Go ahead.
Okay, I have two questions. I'm curious to know your answers. Number one, how much is this, from your estimation, going to cost the water holders, the water users in Missoula, because of this legal wrangling and insistence by the mayor to take over Mountain Water? That's number one. And number two, how is the potentially toxic CSKT water compact that will affect all water rights in western Montana affect Mountain Water and the water right holders in Missoula?
Go for it, John.
All right. The first one, how much is it going to cost?
Yeah.
When I was here in December, the legal fees for both sides were at about $3 million in total. Since then, they're up over $5 million in total, and we're not even through the first phase of the litigation.
You haven't gone to court yet.
We haven't gone to court yet, and there's many phases in the process with appeals to the Supreme Court. So that gives you an idea of the kind of costs that are running up. I can't project how much that's going to be in the long run.
Well, now, I guess what's Susan? I think Susan, please, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think she's asking how much of that money are you going to have to pay and thereby have to pass along to the customers of Mountain Water? Is that right, Susan?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm asking.
Okay.
Yeah, so by Constitution, if we win, then the city has to pay all legal fees on both sides. So we won't be passing legal fees on to our customers, but our customers live in this community, so they're going to pay for it one way or the other, but they won't pay for it through their water rates.
Right.
Yeah, but they'll pay for it through increased taxes and possible SIDs and who knows what will happen.
Well, we'll pay through it. We'll pay for it through our taxes. Our budget will have to adjust to fit those costs. City budget.
Okay. All right, and then for the second question, it looks to me as though the CSKT water compact is in fact going to be passed. And if that happens, some of the best experts in the country have predicted this will be precedent-setting and will impact all water right holders. So how would the CSKT water compact impact Mountain Water and thus Missoula residents?
Okay, Susan, tell you what, I'm sorry about this, so I'm going to have to take a break, and we'll have John, thank you for your call. We'll have John answer that when we come right back. We have all three lines open, 721-1290. If you want to visit with John Kappas, the president of Mountain Water, we'll be right back in a moment. Thanks for joining us on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. We happen to have all three lines open right now, but Susan just asked a question of John Kappas, the president of Mountain Water, joining us here in studio. By the way, welcome back, sir. Thank you for being with us. Now, she asked about the possible impact of the CSKT Water Rights Compact. It looks like, she said, had a favorable vote in the state Senate yesterday. It looks like it might sail through. If it does, have you had a chance to just objectively look at how that might affect your business and thereby the water users in Missoula?
Yeah, from the standpoint of Mountain Water Company, we felt the compact was beneficial because it helped settle the water issues in this basin relating to the compact. And so at this point, whether we're privately owned or publicly owned, it's going to have the same impact in the long run. And we feel that it was a good direction for us.
I wanted to talk. Well, sorry, Peter's
bad.
Got that music bug, doesn't he?
Sorry.
One of the things I wanted to bring up was the issue of you had mentioned a little bit of the disclosure and how that affected things, but I wanted to go into it a little bit deeper. Part of the mediation process with the city that came out in that Wednesday meeting, it kind of not only maybe set up the city for another lawsuit, but it also kind of hushed mediation attempts in the background to solve this without a lawsuit, right?
And the lawsuit right now is our intervention within the condemnation litigation. So that continues on. So the mediation was to try to attempt to resolve the issues between the interveners, the employees, and the city. And so with that, breach of confidence, then the mediation ended, and the issues will have to be taken up during the March trial.
No, since the last time we talked, a lot has been made about the employees' involvement in the litigation, whether or not that'll happen, what form it'll take. But a lot of the discussion has been on the city's offer of employment to Mountain Water employees. And if you could just sum up, why don't the employees of Mountain Water Company want to work for local Missoula government and would rather work for Algonquin, a Canadian company?
Or Liberty, yeah.
Yeah, so Liberty has come and they've met with the employee groups now for over the last few weeks. David Paseka, who's the president of Liberty Utilities. And what Liberty Utilities has committed to is they're keeping all the employees here at Missoula. They're looking at how we build in the state of Montana, other opportunities, and they're committed to local decision-making, local service, and they're not going to break up the water company at all. So we're comfortable to moving forward the day Liberty takes control.
So basically what they're saying is they're taking Mountain Water as is.
They're taking Mountain Water as is. Okay. They're committing to wages and benefits of all the employees here, and they're looking at ways we're going to be able to add jobs here in Missoula because they're looking at Missoula as a headquarters, regional headquarters, because of the good staff we have here. So when we look at what Liberty has committed to, long-term employment, it's almost counter to what the city has been saying. When they haven't made a commitment, they are going to reduce jobs.
How do you know that?
Because they've said that they're reducing at least the top 3 positions here in Missoula.
Okay. So basically they're getting out the old management, putting new management in. Is that?
Well, I don't know who they're putting in.
Well, when you say top 3, I guess.
Yeah, so Mountain Water's top 3 folks, they're not making commitments to. And then the rest of the employee group, they're not making, haven't made commitments that the employee group feels like they would follow through on.
So for a lot of the employees, it's kind of like that final fight scene where the two are alone, all the ninjas pour in from the sides, and they got to go back to back because they don't want the other one to get killed, or they're the last guy standing, right? So it's kind of the back-to-back situation here. Everyone's kind of covering each other.
Everybody's. Maybe I've missed the analogy there.
Because you can't. Because if some employees get a job and others lose, right? They feel that they would hurt everybody. They're teaming up, in other words.
Well, no, we have a real good team at Mountain Water Company. I mean, that's one way we're able to serve this community as effectively and efficiently as we do. And so,
I could go to a lot of companies and say, "Hey, team, how would you like to get rid of your top 3 leaders, your bosses, and have new employment?" And I bet a lot of companies would be, "Yeah, I'm in."
Tell me a little bit, because I think a lot of folks may not realize, John Kappas, by the way, president of Mountain Water, 2 lines open, 721-1290. A lot of folks don't realize just exactly how big or how small Mountain Water is. Are we talking hundreds of employees, dozens? I mean, and what's your payroll per year, or is that proprietary?
No, the total payroll is, with benefits, roughly $4 million a year.
Okay.
And we have 39 employees in total here in Missoula.
So, we're not talking about an enormous...
We're not a large employee group.
So basically, it's a typical small business for Western Montana, right?
That's correct.
Right. Okay. Well, let's get Ed on the line. Ed, first of all, thank you for holding. You're on Talkback. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Speaking of benefits and numbers of employees, how much does an individual employee pay for health insurance at Mountain Water right now? Hello?
I'm thinking.
He's musing.
I'm trying to remember the exact
trying to push the ninja analogy out of his mind.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm still working off that analogy. I'm apologizing that I didn't get that one.
He's trying to get rid of the throwing stars. Anyway, go ahead.
As far as we have employees, there's employees, there's spouse employees, and then employees and family.
Yep.
Right. I think the employee share is about 7% for the employee portion, and then it's a higher percent for the family and spouse. I can't recall the exact.
Okay, if they were converted to city employees, they would have to pay $21.75 per month. Not $22. That would be way too much. $21.75. I can't understand, from the fringe benefit side of it, why employees wouldn't want that cushy city job.
Well, the problem is, would they have a cushy job if they worked for the city? That's just it.
That's right.
And and I think that's the question: is what is the future with the city, and what does it look like for the employee group? And that's the question at hand. The revenues that we bring in from the community support 39 employees, so it would be easy we believe, for the city to commit to all the employees. If they're not going to commit to all the employees, then the question is, where do those revenues? How are they going to use those revenues? And to date, they're not going to reduce wages for the community. Rates for the community. So that's part of the question out there.
Anything else, Ed?
Nope, thank you.
Thanks for the call. We're up against a break. That means we have all three lines open. You got a question for John Kappas, president of Mountain Water Company. And when we come back, I want to talk about the Water Facts, the new website you guys have put up, and how that's being perceived and how that's being accepted. So we'll talk about that when we come right back after this timeout. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, and John Kappas joining us here in studio. John, of course, the president of Mountain Water Company, and we have folks on the line who want to visit with you. Let's get them first. Pete, you are on with John Kappas. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, and a brief comment and two simple questions.
Right ahead, sir.
The comment is, what's happened to public officials telling us the truth? We have a mayor that's playing high-stakes poker with our money. And he told us the game was going to cost us 20% of what it has right now.
Well, I believe the original estimate was like $400,000. Is that right?
For legal fees.
Yeah, for legal fees.
Yeah. So I mean, when's the public going to get tired of this and do a referendum? Let's find out what the public really thinks about this transaction. But the questions I have, I thought the city was to provide an operating plan for reading the newspaper account, and I've never seen one. And the second one is, when do you think the Public Service Commission will take action on your Liberty acquisition?
Okay, thanks for the call, Pete. We'll get those answered for you. So go ahead.
So as relates to the operating plan, we haven't seen one from the city. They say they don't have a plan. And Peter, you had asked about mountainwaterfacts.com.
Yes, sir.
I would encourage people to go out there. We're trying to put facts and information out there relating to condemnation, so people have the answers, at least from our standpoint. As relates to the Public Service Commission transaction, we did file with Liberty with the PSC. They've set a schedule, and the hearing is set for here in Missoula the week of July 27th.
So but that's long after the initial court case, which is supposed to be in March, right?
Yeah. So the district court case will be starting March 18th, and so the order will come out sometime around that time frame. And then decisions will be made as far as appeals on both sides after that.
One of the things that came up in the debate between some city council members was it was pointed out by one of the proponents of the Mountain Water acquisition was that the plan or the action plan from Mountain Water Company hasn't been disclosed to the public. Is that true? I mean, can you go into detail on what that is? And I guess when he's talking about action plan, we're talking about the plan for fixing leaks and repairing the system, that sort of thing.
Mountain Water Company has long-term plans. I think our actions show what our plans have been. We have plans that we've provided the Public Service Commission about our leaks, and that's available on the PSC website. So I'm not quite sure what they're talking about as far as what we don't have as plans. We have statutes from the Public Service Commission that we have to follow on how to provide service and operate. We have, like I said, long-term capital plans. We have long-term operational plans. We have our procedures for backflow, cross-connection issues. So I'm not quite sure what, I mean, we'd be able to show our plans on any of the issues that we have from an operational standpoint.
Okay, let's get Pat on the line. Pat, first of all, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question with John. I was just wondering if you have had any contact with the old former Park Water Company since the sales come up, and if you have, what do they say about the sale now, coming up with the city or whomever is planning on buying the company?
One way or another, that's going to sell, right?
Yeah, so Liberty Utilities is buying all of Park Water. So Park Water Company has 3 operating units, 2 in California, 1 in Montana. So we're still part of the Park Water family. But then as Liberty Utilities, when they acquire us, then we are going to create a Montana company up here, and we'll start growing the Montana company up here.
So in other words, you would be a subsidiary of Park Water Company, then it would become Liberty. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll be part of the Liberty Utilities, so we'd be Liberty Utilities Montana.
So would you still be Mountain Water, though?
Yeah, what about Mountain Water now being, are they going to keep the name, or would they change the name?
You know, that's one of the details that we haven't worked through. I think what we're looking at is Liberty Utilities. They're in water, gas, electric, and so we'd be looking at all those opportunities throughout Montana. So absolutely Mountain Water Company, our service here would stay the same, and we'd stay the essence of Mountain Water Company. But as far as what the name's going to be, it's probably going to be Liberty Utilities Montana.
Okay, Pat, anything else?
Nope, that should take care of it.
Thanks for the call. And so let's get Mike on the line. Mike, you're on with John Kappas. By the way, 2 lines open at 721-1290. Mike, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. I just think that historically, in my opinion anyway, if the city takes over, that we're going to have nothing but problems from now on. Government doesn't create things, and nor should it create things. And I believe that the only thing that they want with the ownership of our water is for more tax money and basically control of the citizens. I think that private ownership of the water is always better because the focus on quality is there and not an agenda. And I just wanted to thank John for his hanging in there and going through this. Not like you have a choice, but for going headstrong in this. And I just wanted to encourage you to keep on the offense because the city does not play fair. And so I just wanted to basically give a thank you for that.
All right. Do you have a question, though, Mike?
Don't have a question.
All right.
Just wanted to thank you.
You bet. Thanks for the call.
And John does have a choice on whether or not to come on Talkback. Actually, both Johns. Speaking here of John Engen, also has a choice on whether or not to come on Talkback.
Right.
And one of those two has chosen to do so. I wanted to bring up the point I referenced earlier. I'm going to read here. This is from a Kyla Spaller article in the Missoulian. How much time do I have, Peter?
We'll take a break whenever you're done reading.
Well, let me get to it after the break.
Okay.
It's about the action plan. But
Okay.
I'll bring it up after the break.
We're going to come right back. And by the way, we have all 3 lines open in case you've been trying to get through. 721-1290. John Kappas. Now, remember, he's only going to be with us for another half an hour or so. So don't procrastinate if you have a question or a comment or a kudo or perhaps a criticism. He's a big boy. He's got his big boy pants on today, or ninja pants on today. We're coming right back with more in a moment. Oh, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Now, why don't you go ahead and read the story there, and Dean, we'll get to your phone call just as soon as we can.
So, real quick, this is from Kyla Spaller. The article is called Councilors Debate City's Efforts to Condemn Mountain Water Company. It was a debate between Adam Hertz and Mr. von Lossberg. And the section I wanted to read for you is one of the main issues of the debate was over the action plan. And this is von Lossberg. He says, quote, our water system, no matter who owns it, is going to require tens of millions of dollars of infrastructure investment over the next couple of decades. Failing infrastructure is a pressing issue nationwide because of the age and material of pipes, he said. In general, he said, water systems are in need of massive reinvestment. The industry calls it the replacement era. It's not business as usual. Additionally, Mountain's leakage rate is high, some 40% to 50%, he said. And he said, wow, there's a lot of he saids in here. Carlisle's managing director acknowledged to the Public Service Commission that leaks were high. The plan to fix it, though, is shielded from the very people who use the water, von Lossberg said. The action plan for your water utility ordered by your Public Service Commission has been marked confidential. City ownership would provide more transparency, he says. Ownership of Liberty, on the other hand, might cost ratepayers a bundle. In Pine Bluff, Arkansas, the company that wanted to buy Mountain is requesting a 28% rate hike for water customers. I see a huge risk on the financial side with this company that's been proposed to be our new partner, he said. So if you could kind of go over the argument line there between whether or not it's shielded from the public and whether or not the city could do a better job, I'd like to get your take on things.
Yeah, so in 2010, we provided our action plan to the PSC. to show how we were going to address leakage in this community in a cost-effective manner for our customers. And that plan is online. It was in the docket of 2010. If we don't have it on mountainwaterfacts.com, I'll make sure that that gets posted here in the next couple of days. So it's not publicly or protected from the public. Folks can see what that plan is. Since that plan, I mean, we have built on it as well. We have our capital plan that continues our ongoing investment into the infrastructure. And so I believe our plan is addressing leakage and doing it in a cost-effective manner for this community. And it's not something we're ignoring. It's something that we know we have to continue to invest in. As a community, we have to. As Brian pointed out, infrastructure is failing all throughout the country. And to be able to get enough capital to make sure that you have a good infrastructure system is important. And that's what we get through owners like Liberty, long-term owners. We're going to have the capital that we need as a community to continue to invest in the infrastructure so we continue to have clean, safe, reliable service. And I think at the end of the day, we have a good reputation for clean, safe, reliable service. So that is the bottom line, to show that our infrastructure is being maintained in a way that provides that to this community. As far as what the city's ability to do that kind of work is, it's concerning in the fact that, one, as we talked about earlier, they don't necessarily have the commitment from all the professional water workers that they're going to need to continue to run the system. And their plan to acquire the system is a 100% debt plan, which puts our community in a lot of financial debt for the next 30 years. And any capital improvements that they are going to have to do is going to be additional debt on top of that. So that becomes very difficult when you're trying to replace infrastructure, not to have dollars available to make that happen.
Are you saying debt's bad? I kind of get a stink of that. Debt might be bad from you. One of the questions, though, that your line inspired was the issue of Liberty being a long-term owner. What reassurance do you have that they are a long-term owner? From what I understand, they have been buying up, but a lot of property relatively recently, over the last 2 years or so.
Yeah, so they've owned utilities for 20-some years. They've never sold a utility. They're looking at this as a long-term investment. That's their plan. They don't have any short-term desires at all. And part of that, when you look at any premium they pay for this system, is not going to impact the ratepayers in this community. So any premium they pay, they have to get over the long-term hold. And so they're talking about hundreds of years in order to make this work, but they know that it's a 100-year commitment because they want to. We've been around since 1885, serving this community from a private standpoint, and they understand that that's what it takes.
Now, what about the allegation by Mr. von Lossberg that it could have a rate increase of, 25, 26%? Is that something like that? And I'm not sure where that number actually came from.
Rate increase? I didn't read that in this.
Well, he talked about
leakage rate.
Yeah, well, leakage rate, but to fix it would require a rate increase. Is that something that you would agree with, or is that something that you as a company would absorb? Obviously, if you're going to have to go fix something, money's got to come from somewhere.
I got you. You were referring to what happened in Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
In Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So from Mountain Water standpoint, our system is in good repair. I mean, we have to continue to on this plan that we have over time replacing, but there isn't anything that requires immediate go in and increase rates to that effect. I mean, they're obviously, when Liberty's buying utilities in other places, they could be buying utilities that don't have enough capital, haven't been having the improvements that they need. But as a system, we're going to continue on our plan, and Liberty is committed to our plan.
Okay, we're going to come right back. And Dean, I promise the moment we get back, your phone call is first on the docket, and we have two lines open as well. 721-1290, John Kappas, president of Mountain Water, is joining us. You have a question or comment, give us a call. Hey, thanks so much for being with us this morning on Talkback. I'm Peter Christian. That's John King, our show producer over there, co-host. And joining us, John Kappas. He's the president of Mountain Water. And I promised Dean we would go immediately to your call. First of all, thanks for your patience, Dean. What's on your mind?
It's kind of funny that the city is so anxious to buy the water company, and I haven't heard any comment about annexation. Are there parts of the city water, Mountain Water, that go into the county areas that would allow the city an opportunity to annex those areas, like maybe the Big Flat area, or allow them to maybe in the future expand the water system in order to annex other areas of the county.
All right, what do you think, John?
So as far as we have 1,500 customers that are not in the city limits that we serve. So that gives you an idea of that we are outside of the city limits. As far as what their annexation action plan is, I don't know. But one thing that does happen with water when it's held by a municipality is it can become political. In the fact that they can choose to use it.
Become a weapon, right?
Yeah, you can choose to use it to annex more property or maybe not allow any growth outside of the city limits. And so one thing Mountain Water Company has provided over time is that if developers want to develop, whether they're in the city or the county, they don't have to worry about that difference. We work with them to run water to their properties.
Anything else, Dean?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks for the call. So let me ask you this: how far out does Mountain Water go, and do you have the capacity to spread out should the need arise? Let's say there's a major development out, this way or that way, and they want to have Mountain Water. I mean, and they're willing to pay for the infrastructure to bring it to their, rather than digging a bunch of wells. Is that something that you could do?
Yeah, that's something we can do. We definitely. You have to put in different infrastructure depending on where the development is. I mean, there's a lot of development around the airport where we just have to run additional mains. We could have development on the hillsides where you'd have to have more booster pumps or reservoirs or those kind of things. As far as water rights, we have the water rights to be able to help developers serve their development. So we do have the capacity to help this community grow.
And where does the authority to do that come from? Is that part of your charter? Is that part of your business plan? And in other words, did you have to get permission from the government to be able to operate in that manner?
So in Montana, we don't have a certificated area, so that means we can operate wherever people want us to serve. We can serve. As far as our water rights are reviewed and administered through the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation. So that's where we have permission of where we can use the water rights, and it's in this Missoula Valley is where we can use those rights.
All right. I wanted to ask you a little bit if you could compare and contrast the plans for the city's use of the water and the plans for Liberty's use of the water and the system that your employees, the people that actually work there. What do we know about what the city wants to do, and what do we know about what Liberty wants to do? Seems like you've given a lot of information about what Liberty wants to do. What is your take on what the city's plan is?
As far as operations, the city has said they don't have a plan. And so that's as far as we know. As far as Liberty's plan is to continue to have our employees serve good, clean water to this community and grow our system. But as far as the city's plan, I would have to defer that to the city and have you ask that question to them.
Well, they don't have a plan.
And allow me to ask you this: as the president of Mountain Water, do you speak for your employees, or do they have their own group that speaks for themselves?
So we have an employee group. A Mountain Water Company was established. I am in that employee group as an employee. All right. But we are represented by Gary Zadek. He's an attorney out of Great Falls, and he's the representative of the employee group. The
reason I ask that is I wanted to ask you, should the city be successful in its bid to condemn and then therefore purchase at a much reduced cost Mountain Water, the employees there, have they said, we're done, or we just simply don't want to work for the city, or is it a hard and fast decision, or are they just kind of waiting to see how things work out?
First of all, I don't think the city's going to get to buy it for a low number. The number is going to be very
lower.
Well, it's going to be higher. It's a fair market value.
Okay,
and so it's the highest value of all of our assets. So so under condemnation is going to be a very high number.
We should talk about that shortly.
And as far as for the employee group, I think it's the confusion of what the future holds, more so than even trying to determine whether or not they would work for the city. I mean, first of all, they have to know that there's going to be financial viability to be able to bring all the employees over and be able to afford at least the next payroll. So I think it's the confusion at this point and the lack of commitment that they're seeing from the city. And then on the other side, the good commitments they're getting from Liberty Utilities.
Okay.
Interesting.
So-
Let's talk a little bit about. Well, first of all, I just wanted to mention that. Okay, imagine if you're a banker, right? You have people that come and they want to put a business plan in place. They want to start up a new shop. Maybe it's a donut shop, right? What are they going to come and do? They're going to come. They say, "Hey, here's my business plan. Will you loan me money?" Well, when you're a resident of the city of Missoula, we don't get to see a business plan. We just give the money. That should be a concern, I think. Anyway, on to the issue of how much this thing is actually going to cost and how long it's going to cost. You had mentioned briefly that you thought that the price was going to be way higher than original offers from the mayor. And you had also mentioned way earlier on in the show that the lawsuits were going to keep going for quite some time. So what is your estimate on both?
So as far as the fair market value, we've been asked not to talk about those specifics, but we have those will be presented in the March trial. And I think last time I was here in December, it's about when we look around to other places in the country where this has taken place, cases, and it's gone to a fair market value, it's usually about 3 times what the initial offer is from the city. So that gives you kind of a ballpark of what you see from cases around the country.
What was that offer?
The formal offer from the city for, as relates to condemnation, was $50 million.
So $150 million.
That's what you'd see in other states.
Okay.
And that's different from, that's on top of what the lawyer's fees would be for the case.
Correct. That would just be the fair market value we were talking about. Then on top of that, you're going to have closing costs for the bonds, and then you're also going to have the legal fees, and so those legal fees will be cover the whole cost of this process. So the question of how long this takes, this March trial is the first phase of the necessity phase,
right,
where the city has to prove that there is a necessity to take Mountain Water Company and they can put it to a higher and better use. Once that decision's made, then obviously there's going to be appeals to Supreme Court, probably either way. Then from there, if it continues on, there's the fair market value part of it, where 3 commissioners are appointed by the judge to determine the fair market value. So that's a court case in and of itself. From there, either party then can appeal it to a jury trial. So then it goes through a jury trial, and then from there, again, could be appealed. So we're talking a lot of different trials.
Okay. Well, we're up against a break, and okay, well, thank you very much for sharing that.
$2 million Parks and Trails bond looked pretty skimpy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's peanuts. We're coming right back in a moment. All right, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Don't have a whole lot of time. Only have about 7 or 8 minutes. We have a Facebook comment. Go.
Kitty says, if the cost is $5 million now, how high is it going to go? Taxpayers' fatigue is in high mode. Why in the first place did we even sell to the California company who claimed that they would improve the infrastructure, which they did not? Is there a way that we can countersue for legal costs because of their supposed legal agreement to upgrade our system, and it was not done? So I think she's talking here about
Park Water.
Yeah, Park Water.
Yeah, so that takes us back for history for a while, because we've always been private since the time the community was founded. I mean, Higgins and Warden started the water system for their mill, and then they used they started providing water to the community, and so then it has stayed private since. So it's not that this was ever sold by the city to a private company. Montana Power Company held it since 1925. In 1979, they created Mountain Water, which was then sold to Park Water Company in 79. As far as the commitment to continue to improve infrastructure, we invest every year. Park Water Company has, and throughout to date. And that investment continues to improve the infrastructure. I mean, the infrastructure is old. It's 100 years old in some places, but we continue to reinvest in a cost-effective manner for our ratepayers. And like I said, the bottom line of that is we have clean, safe, reliable service continual.
Let's get back to the phones. And Ed, thanks for holding. You're on with John Kappas. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. John brought up kind of Spalzer's articles, and from what I've read of them, and I believe I read most of them, the Missoulian is not on your side. They seem to be everyone that I've, except one maybe. They're pretty well slanted. It sounds like they came out of City Hall to me.
What's your take, John? Do you feel the Missoulian's been unfair in the water?
Have they been fair to you guys? in your opinion?
Yeah, Kayla's. I mean, Kayla calls and takes interviews from us and is trying to show our side of it. I think one thing that's been tough is that up until about November 3rd, we didn't have our side of the story out, so people weren't able to get the facts, and so that's one reason we're putting mountainwaterfacts.com so we can continue to provide information out there so the media has more information about what's going on and can use that for their stories.
Anything else, Ed?
Well, I think Engen is, it's just a dumb idea, but that's my opinion.
All right. Thanks for the call, Ed. And Candy, you're on Talkback with John Kappas. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, John. And I just have to go back to Ed. That was a great Freudian slip. I'm from Chicago, too. Where Mary daily rained and rained and rained and still rains in the spirit somewhere. Anyway, John, I want to thank you very much. I'm real supportive of you guys, as you know. But I wanted to mention, you either read or played von Lossberg's comments that held a majority of what I, in my opinion, call lies against mountain water, but you didn't give equal time to Adam Hertz's comments. And so what's out there now that was put out by Talkback is only the one side by Van Lossberg telling, in my opinion, lies.
You don't think that John Kappas performs the role of the counter?
You would read Adam's comments, too.
I have John Kappas in my studio to respond. That's the whole idea.
Adam was in the debate.
Yes, he was.
Van Lossberg.
We've had him on the air as well.
What did Adam say?
I'm sure he said a lot of great things, but he's not John Kappas, who I have in studio.
That isn't the point. The point is that you gave one side that contained, in my opinion, lies, but we didn't get to hear, so that John could even hear what Adam said.
Well, I don't have that in front of me, and we only have 1 minute left in the show.
But I'm just saying, we only got one side.
Gotcha. All right.
Okay.
Thanks for the call. I don't get that sometimes. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Well, we have what we have, and we don't have what we don't have, but we don't have what we have, which we had, but we didn't have it at the time. I think I got that. So we have like 1 minute left, John. So real quickly, tell us again. You shared with us a little bit about your website. So flesh that out a little bit. And if people have more questions, they can call. I mean, what can they do?
Absolutely. So mountainwaterfacts.com. We're updating with information on questions we're hearing from the community, on information that's going on with this condemnation case, and on the different aspects of Mountain Water Company. Feel free to call down if you have any questions to our local number. You can email us on the website. You can also sign up on that website, so as we put more information out, we can email and let you know. So,
and could you put a tab in mountainwaterfacts.com that says Ninja on it?
We will definitely do that.
Hiya! So anyway, I want to say thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. And we do invite Mayor Engen to come on the show and share his ideas. That invitation has always been open. We continue to try to keep that channel open. We would love to have the mayor on, whether in person or on the phone, anytime.
Anytime, place a call, we'll put you on.
Absolutely. And John, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Tomorrow, John?
Open phones.
Open phones. Awesome. You guys have a great day. Enjoy this sunshine. We will see you tomorrow morning at 6 for Montana Morning.